name.
All right. So, hello, everybody. We're back again. Well, actually, we were never back because we were never live, and I thought we were live. So we were 5 minutes into hanging out live, and then I got a message from StreamYard that says it's not you, it's me. So, yeah, I'm just checking our LinkedIn now to make sure we're live. All right.
I think I got blacklisted from LinkedIn for coming in hard against Microsoft Teams the other day.
I think you did.
Sorry.
And I've been going after some of the LinkedIn influencers that are out there, so it's probably me.
Yes.
Don't worry,
yes,
we will be
you have been
silenced
going
too
after
for the truth.
All right, cool. We are live. I just got the notification. So it's great to see everybody. Like I was saying, we were not live. Literally, me, Dan, and Jake were talking for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden we got a notification. So all that being said, it's great to have you all today. We're going to talk about market trends. There's 30 years between us, so we've seen some things. So we're going to talk to you about the things that we've seen. Real quick intros, real fast, because we've already done this already just between us. Dan, take it away.
Hi, Dan.
Sounds great.
Hey, I'm Jake.
That's great.
Jake.
Awesome. So,
yeah,
cool. All right. So let's talk about market trends. For those of you who are tuning in, listen, we want to see, okay, we are live. Michael, it's great to see you, man.
There it is.
If y'all are seeing some things, if y'all are seeing some things as well, please add us, please comment us, because we want this to be more interactive. I know when we have guests on, we're kind of more straight ahead because we have so much to cover in 30 minutes. This is more of a chit chat kind of fireside conversation. So if you have comments, throw it up and we'll get to it. So trends, what are we seeing?
Yeah. Cool.
Dan,
so trends that we're seeing, we're seeing a lot. Obviously, we've never had a tighter market than we've had from a candidate perspective, but we've also never had more jobs. I think that there's 1.4 jobs per one person that's looking for a job, not including people that are potentially not even looking but are out there that are potential candidate pool. So, needless to say, there's a ton of opportunity out there. Companies have obviously started to get a little more creative, not just in terms of salary and offering more there, not only in a hybrid work environment, a work from home, work model, whatever that might be, but we're finally starting to see some companies be a little bit more creative with their benefits, which I think is incredible and great. They're offering and being creative, whether it's with childcare, pet care, tuition reimbursement, certifications, training, education, really starting to ramp their employees up and doing a lot more cross training rather than just siloing people, which I think is great. And then one of the big things that I'm seeing that I'm most excited about is that for the first time in my career, I'm starting to see a lot more hiring of junior level folks into companies that historically have always looked for senior and mid-level folks. And with that comes, a fervor and an excitement, maybe a lack of bad habits and bad behavior too that you might find in a mid or senior level person. So we're finally starting, in my opinion, to see a real change of building, true holistic dev teams and systems teams that are out there to actually build for the future and not just try to say, hey, we need to accomplish this in the next 3 months or, we're done.
I love that.
Yeah. Man, what I found that I was waiting for it to happen, and I finally feel like it's happening just a little bit, is that candidate preference is coming back to local and wanting to be back in office. I've seen that for devs pop up a lot in the last month, especially. For us, we're getting these which have been remote historically are asking to come in. We have to expand our office space when we thought we were going to have to diminish, right? And so, interesting. For sure.
Jake,
and so I personally, being a very
Go ahead.
You're lagging a bit.
Yeah, you're lagging. Go ahead.
No, that's just how I talk, dude. No, it's not.
Just very delayed the entire time.
Yeah.
So do you think we're going to start seeing more on site? Because I was listening to a podcast the other day, just kind of more of an overall cultural podcast. They talk a lot of tech and investing, and they're saying the pendulum is going back to the employers. And I disagree with that. I think I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Look, man, I think people are tired and they don't want to negotiate on their behalf anymore. And if they can find a spot that they can, I feel comfortable being here. I like the people I'm with. The tech's good enough. I feel safe. I think that the more that you're going to see like interest rates hike and more like kind of influx and just the quality of our economy, people are going to be risk adverse again and not wanting to switch jobs every little bit. So we had that little bucket, that little window where it was, oh man, I could just fall out of my window and find a new job for $150K. I think that's shifting right now, and you're going to see people that are like, yeah, actually, I want to be with people. Relationships are good. Longevity is actually feels right. It feels nice. It feels good to be a part of something, that's a little bigger than me. And so that pendulum is switching.
Do you think companies are going to require on-site, or do you think it's going to be more of just a healthy conversation of like, hey,
it'll still be conversational.
Yeah.
I think the conversation is, I don't think you can delete the conversation now, right? Like the conversation's already been there. We've been 2 years. I do think more and more companies are going to encourage an in-office first approach with a hybrid, work model. But in my opinion, and this is just the business side of me thinking, there's far too much money tied up in commercial real estate. There's far too much money tied up in leases and everything else for companies to just like let that squander. I do think that there's better ways that we can do in office work. I do think allowing a lot more flexibility. I do think you'll probably see more hoteling and things of that nature rather than these like permanent desks. I do think you'll see companies downsize, but I do think that you will still see over the next 12 months plus a higher than we expected return back into the office. But I do think Jake makes a good point about safety and security. I think that for a little while it was okay, this is a market where I can go make a lot of money, I can go jump, but now I mean, we're seeing what's happening with the stock market today, with Russia and Ukraine, with the interest rates, with inflation and everything else. I do think some individuals are going to start to think about that side of the equation more than just saying, "Hey, I can work from home and maybe make a little bit more money."
Yeah. Michael brings up a good point here. Honestly, I'm tired of good candidates won't be on the market long articles. Does that make folks that aren't snapped up immediately feel like crap? I've actually never thought about this, to be honest with you.
Well, I think so many of those articles around everything are just shit to get people to click on anything anyway.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Most of the writers don't know anything about anything.
But I think one of my biggest, Taylor, I actually want to get your thoughts on this because you do a great job of moderating this, but I want to get your thoughts on that question. But the answer for me is pretty short one, is that my biggest issue that we have with LinkedIn influencers and a lot of these articles and stuff that come out is that a lot of people don't realize the other side of the equation, that there are great candidates that do sit out there for a long time. And just because you don't get a job in a week doesn't mean that you're a bad candidate, or just because you don't get the first 3 opportunities, or just because you submitted yourself to 5 things and didn't get it doesn't mean that you're a bad candidate. There's so many other things that go into hiring, which is why it gets so frustrating when you see the internet posting these like god awful articles about topics like that. Is like most of them have never been in not only a recruiting capacity but ever in a hiring capacity. I do think that we need to change the framework of that. But Taylor, I want to hear your thoughts, man.
I think the whole good candidates won't be on the market long. It's all about timing. And I don't think we talk about this enough. And I do talk to a lot of candidates that are beat down, but also too, like, it's literally about timing. I've talked to so many great developers that just can't find jobs because they're just not quite a fit, right? I know an engineer who interviewed at Cloudflare this week, 7 rounds. He was a great candidate. He got an offer from Chewy. First off, that's another issue we can talk about, 7 rounds. But he got rejected because they were looking for more UI. He was a little more back end heavy, and they didn't have anything in place. But he got another offer from Chewy. Now, I know we're talking about multiple offers here, but I'm also talking about, like, this guy really wanted Cloudflare, and it just wasn't the right time. And he's still a great engineer. And so I want to encourage individuals that if you're struggling to find a job, it's not because you're not a bad candidate. It's just because maybe timing just is a little off, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I saw a good point is like just for a lot of positions, especially Cloudflare, Chewy, I mean, Amazon, Facebook, bigger companies, even mid-sized companies, a lot of times, it's not only timing, but it's where they're at in their process when you apply to, right? That's what I mean is like you could apply for a job that you're the perfect fit for, but they could be, have 4 people in a 3rd round interview. And it makes sense to just follow through that process right then. So,
Right.
but no, the conversations on LinkedIn and a lot of these career blogs and career coaching and things of that
Yeah.
nature, we really do need to pivot away from this. If you're not snatched up in a week, then you're a bad candidate, because you're not. A lot of times there's reasons that you're not snatched up, even personal, right, reasons. So, we never encourage people, unless, to just take any job, but to really be thoughtful in what you're looking for as well. But Taylor, you brought up a point about job, processes and how long they should take. Let's get your take, and then Jake, I want to hear your take too, because I know you guys move and hire quickly on your team.
Seven rounds is a little absurd. I think 7 rounds is. I think you can interview people 100 times if you want to, but it's got to be done in like 2 weeks. I mean, I'm fine. Like, I have a few clients that I'm working with across the country, one in DC specifically and one up in Boston, that have like 6 or 7 rounds, but they get through it in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. I think for whatever reason, I think that window with Kansas is around that 2-week mark. And the further you get out from that, the less chance you have. You don't want to get into a horse race, foot race, whatever type of race every single time with candidates. Any of the races, horse races, I don't know. You don't want to get into those type of races on every single candidate. And a lot of companies are still getting to those races because they're waiting too long to hire somebody.
Agree.
Well, I think it's also a little bit crazy that they went through 7 rounds only to get to the end and say, actually, we don't have a front end role open.
That's the
why have we been talking to you this whole time? It's like, wow, that communication internally was killer. I'd love to know the other side of that, though. We were talking about candidates left on the market. There's also candidates that will be taking opportunities. Like, you're still getting so much more money. There's no other way to say it, but so much more money than you're worth in some companies. And that can be hey, look over here. And really, the company actually might not have that in a runway, and they only have 14 months runway. Or it might be, that you won't have, you're going to be screamed at and expect to work 60 hours at a time. So you have these trade-offs where you just got to know. We talked about this when we started 2 years ago. It's like, have you made a list of what you want and need both? And then, draw that diagram out of like, okay, how does this rank in all of these? Everything from income to quality of life to benefits to the tech to career advancement to the type of work to the team around me to the, there's so many variables.
So I wanna hop in there for 2 things. One, I think the biggest thing is intentionality when you're interviewing. What are we trying to get out of all of these 7 rounds? If you have 7 rounds, that's perfectly fine. That's your process. But what's the difference between conversation 3 and conversation 6, right?
Yeah.
What are you getting out? What are you trying to glean right now? If you want them to meet different people, I've got a junior level developer that, good for him. He had an hour-long phone call the other day, and he's going to have 5 interviews on Monday of 5 different groups of people, but they're all trying to get different things out of him because that's their process. And for them, it works. To me, it's too much, but I don't want to tell a company what they're doing is wrong, but I do want to challenge you on the intentionality of all of those meetings. And why do that many people need to meet? And why do you have to have so many checks on the other people that are interviewing? And to me, that shows that for the most part, and this is no slight at anybody, I do this for a living, and I'm still probably not the world's best interviewer of internal candidates.
I'm definitely not the best interviewer.
What are we trying to get out of this? What's the goal of this meeting? And how is there something tangible that we can talk about it after? I've heard of some companies doing scorecard interviews where they'll have
that's what my team
interviews.
Does. I create a scorecard.
And it's a score. And even if somebody's like, I'm on the fence if they pass or if they fail a certain part of it, but the overall score is still a passing score, they'll still move on to hiring. I think Amazon does something like that. But that could be, another thing. But you have to be intentional with that many rounds, or else people start to get exhausted of having the same conversation every single time. What do you do? What do you want to do? Why are you interested in Acme Widget Company? It's like, bro, we talked about this 3 weeks ago.
Old Acme Widget.
Yeah. Oh, and then the second thing that I'll say is on Jake's point is a lot of people get a little blindsided by salary because they see the money bags, and I get it. Just remember a few things. One, obviously, Jake talked about the company, but two, remember that your new salary, especially if a massive jump in salary, often means different expectations. It means different deliverables.
That's
It
a great
means
point.
it means maybe a different set of hours that didn't exist before, and it also means that if something happens with that company, that just because they paid you X amount of dollars, maybe that doesn't mean that next opportunity is going to be at X amount of dollars again, right?
Look, man,
So
we're dealing with this here.
Really?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, I was just
We
going to
had,
say there's
yeah,
no, I was just gonna say there's a company that came in, they wanted talent so bad they started offering 30, 40, $50,000 more than they were making their salary. They let some of them go because they weren't delivering. And now all of a sudden that $100,000 candidate that just got $150,000 saying, hey, I want a $150,000 job. It's
Ah,
like, hey pal, what about this $105,000 job I have?
ah,
Well, now that's an insult to my work. I was just making 150, right? So
and now you're not.
it's there's some psychological pieces of
fascinating.
it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we just dealt with this. It was Apple came in here to the Triangle, right? And they were hiring people at 20, 30, $40,000 above. Some of
Really?
them 50 or 60, and they did that about 2 years. They not only are now hiring more market rate down here, but they're coming and trying to take percentages back from people they've already hired and lower their salaries here. They're like, oh, we miscalculated how much it actually
Mm.
costs to live here, and so we didn't mean to, and they
Can't
want
do
to
that.
they want to drop
Can't
it.
do that.
Sorry.
And I was like, whoa,
Well,
yeah, and so
I posted
ahead,
this yesterday about humility in the job search. Like some of y'all
yeah,
need some humility. And I mean that in the most grace-giving way I feasibly can. But you have to realize that, listen, just because you are worth 150K at company A doesn't mean you're worth that at company B. That's what
just
company
doesn't
A
means they
thought
can't
you were
pay.
worth. Huh?
Sometimes companies also just can't pay
And you
150K,
can't
but
just
they're a
pay it.
great place to work, right?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah,
I think then we get into some real world stuff around budgeting, living beyond
Mhm.
your means. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people lately. They were living pretty high on the hog the last 2 years, and then reality's kind of snapped back a little bit. So I would
Mhm.
just caution everybody on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I
we've known some people, I think, all collectively that have been, companies about to sell or something, and they're like, well, I'm going to go buy my boat now, and then
Yeah.
it didn't sell, and now they got this boat payment, and they're like, I was not planning on that, so it's a thing.
yeah, no, I think we talked about it was probably a year and a half ago that we talked about salaries and about worth at company A versus worth at company B, and I think that that's probably worth a revisit. I don't remember which episode. It's probably titled in such a way. Um, but one of the things that I also think is important, is going back to the interview topic, is you know really mapping out. I talked about creating a true goal in mind of what each interview is, but also being able to make sure that you have the internal processes in place to be able to pull the trigger when you find the right candidate, and that just having a pool of people to review and compare to needs to go out the window, and you need to start comparing against a matrix that you have of this is what a good employee looks like, and
Mm.
interviewing against the whole of people that you've interviewed for or interviewed with, not just the individual candidates that are on the market. If you find an incredible candidate that checks all of the boxes, don't be afraid to say, hey, this candidate is the right candidate, even if it's the first one you've met. And I'm not even saying that from
Yes.
a headhunting perspective, to
Yes.
try to get it done. I'm just saying, hey, if you found the right person, hire them now,
Yes.
because you've determined what you're looking for in that person, not just, oh, these are the best crop of four people we have, right?
Yeah. That's so
Yeah, I
true.
mean, we've been very decisive in what and who we've been hiring. We actually we interviewed someone who's starting with us on Monday. Uh, we did a single interview with four of us, and we were like, "Yep, we already know." And so
Yeah.
we had an offer to her within, I don't know, maybe 2 hours.
Well, and
She was
that's
ready to go.
one thing, Jake, you've definitely built an incredible book of business with Vaco Bill. And I applaud you, and I've applauded you behind closed doors just with how quickly and
It's
decisive
like in
you
a
move.
closet, like
Yeah,
So.
I'm just by myself like this. Go, Jake. Go, Jake.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think it's important. So, Jake, let me ask you this, though, because you move decisively. How do you let people go within your organization? Because that's tough. I'm like hire fast, do a bunch of one-on-ones. People know where they're coming from, so it's not a surprise, and then you go.
Yeah, we have had to do that for sure. You know, what we're working on is that as we continue to define our roles as our business shifts, as the market shifts too, is that if we can give a first 30, 60, 90-day plan for onboarding for that person and what our expectations are, you'll know within 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
What we always do, I mean, I give a freaking long notice. Unless someone's like integrity driven, and like they were harassment, which we've never had, but that's what would make me, all right, you're out, Friday.
Right.
The shortest notice I've given someone is 4 weeks, and the longest has been 8. And we've helped them give, hey, here's what a transition period would look like. Here's how I know a lot of great people at Vaco. Let's help you with your resume. Let's give you interview tips. I will be a reference for you. Here's why, because the work that we do is not built for everyone. It doesn't make that person not a great product owner. They just aren't built for consulting product ownership, which is a totally different mindset than I'm in a product company building that consultative mindset, which ultimately is really a customer service mindset where you find that happiness in fulfilling the customer's needs, not in you personally getting a lot of glory for shipping a product. Right. And so it's hard to find, but when you bring people in and they find that value, then you fit really well with us.
Yeah.
And so we try to be as honest as we can throughout.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I know Gary Vee talked about it. He goes, man, if you struggle with firing people, he says, just give them a long line or long lead rope or whatever. I'm really bad with saying today, but like, just give them like a long severance, 90 days. Right. I mean, don't just give them that opportunity. If you
I view it as that if I brought them to the organization and they weren't successful, it's probably on me. It's probably my fault. Right. Because I didn't set the expectations appropriately. I didn't put them on the right team. I didn't give them the right training that they needed, or I didn't even just give them, that clarity that they really needed to make sure that they were successful for themselves, for their team, and ultimately for our organization. And so I'm not going to put that cost on them. That's my fault.
I think some of that goes back to just, I mean, I think a lot of it goes back to, the very beginning, right? Is the intentionality of this role, of this person. What am I looking for? I think a lot of it comes back down to, like Jake, you said, setting expectations. But I also think at some point, both employers and employees can feel that sometimes things just don't work out. And everything could have been perfect, but for some reason it just didn't work out. There's so many different things that have to work together cohesively, coherently, and in the same like pathway and timeline that some minor hiccups, some minor changes of some small blips can really throw things awry. And that's why I always get frustrated at hiring managers. And I mean, I even get frustrated myself sometimes when I ask, why didn't this person work out at this company, or why have they been on the market for, like going back to Craig's point, they've been, on the market for, 2 months. Why are they still looking? It's the hottest tech market ever. It's like, well, no, I need to really look back and think, hey, like maybe one of those things just didn't work out. Doesn't make them a bad employee. Doesn't mean that they're not a future great employee of your organization. Sometimes it just takes a look back in the mirror and saying, hey, what could we have done a little bit differently to avoid this in the future? And then how can I change my approach moving forward?
I love that. We'll end
called him
there.
Craig. I meant Michael. Sorry. I have a friend named Craig Foss. Sorry, that Michael Foss.
You crushed that. So, well, thanks y'all for hanging out with us this morning. Jake, were you about to say something? Nope. Okay. I think he's dying on us again. So y'all, thank you again for hanging out with us this morning. Sorry for the technical issues. We will be back in 2 weeks with a guest. And we can't wait to hang with you all. We have like 3 or 4 guests lined up. So we got a lot of great ones coming up. So thanks y'all. Share this episode. I feel like there's a lot of hiring managers that need to hear this episode.
I was about to say thanks. Hey, Jay, happy to be here.
Yeah, Jay, you're lagging so bad. We love y'all. Thank you again. Y'all take it easy. Peace.